What makes a naval war movie earn real respect from sailors? Is it the scale, the tension, the silence between orders, or the weight of command when the sea refuses mercy? Halfway through, something shifts. You realize these films are not about glory at all. They are about pressure, routine, and choices that stay with you long after the waves calm. Some films understand that truth. Others miss it completely, and the difference is impossible to unsee. Number 15, The Cruel Sea, 1953. This film does not ask you to admire bravery, it asks you to endure it. The Cruel Sea is one of those rare war films that feels tired on purpose. It follows a British escort ship guarding Atlantic convoys during the Second World War. And from the first scene, you feel the grind. Cold decks, endless watches, long stretches where nothing happens, followed by moments where everything goes wrong at once. Sailors respect this film because it understands routine. It understands that most of naval life is waiting, watching, and trying not to make a mistake when fatigue sets in. What made The Cruel Sea stand apart was its refusal to glamorize service. The crew is not polished. They look worn down. Their faces carry stress long before danger appears. Director Charles Friend insisted on showing cracked hands, fogged breath, and the constant damp chill that never leaves the ship. Veterans of the Atlantic campaigns later said this was the only movie that captured the feeling of being cold for weeks without relief. The story does not build toward a triumphant finish. It moves in cycles of hope and loss, just like real patrols did. The sea is not a backdrop. It is the main force shaping every decision. Sailors respected this film because it showed the cost of responsibility. Command here is not power, it is burden. And when the film ends, it leaves you with a quiet truth. Surviving the sea often meant carrying memories heavier than any metal. Number 14, Das Boot, 1981. Das Boot feels less like a movie and more like being trapped inside a thought you cannot escape. This German production placed viewers inside a submarine during the Second World War and refused to let them breathe. Everything about the film is tight. The spaces are narrow. The air feels heavy. Time stretches in uncomfortable ways. Sailors across nations respect Das Boot because it captures the mental pressure of underwater service better than almost any film before or since. Director Wolfgang Petersen fought studios who wanted a faster pace. He insisted on long stretches of silence and repetition. That choice mattered. Submarine veterans later said the slow rhythm was exactly right. Life below the surface is not constant action. It is waiting while listening to sounds that may or may not mean danger. The film lingers on sweat, oil, and exhausted faces. There is no room for hero poses here. What surprised audiences most was its refusal to turn the crew into symbols. These are not villains or icons. They are professionals doing a job in conditions that test sanity. The film avoids speeches and emotional shortcuts. Instead, it builds tension through routine drills, quiet fear, and the creaking sounds of pressure closing in. Sailors respect Das Boot because it understands something simple and rare. The ocean does not care who you are. It only cares how long you can hold together. Few films have captured that truth with such restraint. Number 13, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, 2003. This is not a film about battles. It is a film about command. Master and Commander drops you into the early 19th century, where wooden ships ruled the seas and survival depended on discipline, timing, and trust. Russell Crowe's Captain Jack Aubrey is not portrayed as flawless. He is intelligent, driven, and deeply stubborn, Sailors respect this film because it shows leadership as a daily practice, not a dramatic moment. Director Peter Weir refused to modernize the language or simplify procedures. Orders are specific, routines are strict. Every action has a reason. The ship itself feels alive. You hear ropes strain, wood groan, and waves slam against the hull. The crew functions as a system, and when one part falters, everything feels it. Behind the scenes, the production went to extremes for accuracy. Full-scale ship replicas were built and mounted on moving platforms to recreate real motion at sea. Cast members trained together for weeks to create natural hierarchy. That effort shows on screen. The relationships feel earned. Respect is not given freely. It is built through consistency. Sailors admire Master and Commander because it understands something timeless. The sea rewards preparation and punishes arrogance. Command is not about shouting louder. It is about knowing when to hold steady and when to act. Few films capture that balance so clearly. Number 12, Greyhound, 2020. Greyhound wastes no time explaining itself, and sailors appreciate that immediately. From the opening moments, you are on the bridge of an escort ship crossing the Atlantic in 1942. There are no long backstories, no comfort scenes, just constant movement, decisions, and pressure. The film unfolds almost in real time, mirroring the mental load carried by officers responsible for dozens of lives. Written by and starring Tom Hanks, Greyhound focuses on procedure. Orders are short. Communication is precise. Fatigue is visible. The film shows how leadership feels when rest is scarce and responsibility never pauses. Sailors praise the way the bridge operates. The coordination, the terminology, and the discipline feel earned, not performed. What makes Greyhound stand out is its respect for routine courage. There are no speeches designed to impress the audience. Instead, the tension comes from repetition. Each pass across the ocean tests concentration. Each decision carries consequences that cannot be undone. Modern naval personnel have pointed out how accurately the film portrays stress accumulation. Leadership here is not about confidence alone. It is about endurance. By the end, you understand why sailors connected with this film. It honors the quiet professionals who hold steady when the sea offers no relief. Number 11, The Enemy Below, 1957. This film treats naval conflict like a chess match played in silence. The Enemy Below pairs an American escort commander with a German submarine captain in a tense Atlantic pursuit. What makes the film respected is its balance. Neither side is portrayed as reckless or foolish. Both commanders are skilled, thoughtful, and aware of the cost of mistakes. Robert Mitchum and Kurt Jürgens bring restraint to their roles. Their performances rely on observation rather than emotion. Much of the story unfolds through sonar readings, calculated maneuvers, and patient waiting. Sailors value this approach because it mirrors real engagements at sea, where thinking often matters more than speed. The film was carefully supervised by naval advisors who ensured that tactics and dialogue remained grounded. Even decades later, instructors have used scenes from The Enemy Below to discuss decision-making under pressure. It avoids easy victories and simple conclusions. What sailors respect most is the mutual recognition between opponents. The film suggests that professionalism can exist even across enemy lines. In the end, there is no celebration, only acknowledgement. The Enemy Below understands that the sea does not reward hatred. It rewards discipline, patience, and respect for the unseen opponent below the surface. Number 10, Run Silent, Run Deep, 1958. This film understands that the most dangerous battles happen inside the command room. Run Silent, Run Deep takes place beneath the Pacific, where silence becomes both protection and threat. Clark Gable plays a commander haunted by a past loss, driven by an obsession that slowly tightens its grip on everyone under his authority. Sailors respect this movie because it does not pretend command is clean or comfortable. It shows how personal history can leak into professional judgment. The tension comes not from constant action, but from disagreement. Burt Lancaster's executive officer questions orders that feel increasingly reckless. That conflict mirrors real naval life, where loyalty and responsibility sometimes collide. The submarine itself becomes a pressure chamber. Every decision feels heavier because there is no easy escape. What elevates the film is its focus on discipline under strain. Procedures matter. Silence matters. Timing matters. The movie was praised for its technical accuracy, using real consultants to shape how sonar, movement, and underwater positioning were shown. Even the pauses feel intentional. Sailors have said this film earns respect because it refuses to simplify leadership. It shows how authority can blur into fixation if left unchecked. By the end, Run Silent Run Deep leaves you questioning where duty ends and personal demons begin. That discomfort is exactly why it still resonates. Number 9, In Which We Serve, 1942. This film feels like a memory spoken out loud. In Which We Serve follows the crew of a British destroyer through fragments of their lives, both at sea and at home. Rather than pushing a single hero, it spreads attention across ranks. Sailors respect this film because it understands that naval service is shared. Every role matters, even when unseen. The structure is unusual. The story unfolds through reflections while survivors cling to wreckage after their ship is lost. Those memories reveal routines, friendships, and quiet sacrifices. The sea here is not dramatic. It is constant. It shapes everything without announcing itself. Made during the Second World War, the film carries emotional weight without forcing it. Director Noel Coward leaned into authenticity drawn from real experience. Scenes of exhaustion, confusion, and resolve feel grounded. Sailors recognize their own lives in these moments. What makes the film endure is its honesty about fear. Courage is not shown as the absence of doubt, but the choice to continue despite it. In Which We Serve earns respect because it treats service as a long commitment, not a highlight reel. It understands that the sea binds people together long after the voyage ends. Number 8, The Hunt for Red October, 1990. This is a thinking person's naval thriller. The Hunt for Red October turns tension into a quiet game of interpretation. Based on Tom Clancy's novel, the film centers on a Soviet submarine commander attempting a risky defection. What sailors respect most is how much of the story unfolds through listening, calculation, and restraint. Sean Connery's performance is controlled and deliberate. Orders are measured, reactions are subtle. The American side mirrors this calm focus. There are no reckless moves, only careful responses shaped by limited information. Sailors have long praised the film for its accurate portrayal of sonar rooms, communication chains, and command structure. Behind the scenes, real advisors ensured that terminology and procedures remained believable. The film avoids unnecessary noise. Instead, it builds suspense through uncertainty. Every sound matters because it might be misread. Naval professionals often point out that the movie captures the mental reality of Cold War service. Decisions are made in isolation, with enormous consequences attached. The Hunt for Red October earns its place because it respects intelligence, patience, and the unseen tension that defines life below the surface. Number 7. The Bedford Incident, 1965. This film is unsettling because it feels possible. The Bedford Incident follows a naval escort locked in a prolonged pursuit during the Cold War. The story focuses on a commander whose relentless focus begins to override caution. Sailors respect this film because it highlights a real danger at sea, the danger of pride combined with pressure. The ship operates under constant alert. Sleep disappears, tempers shorten. Small decisions start carrying massive weight. What makes the film powerful is its restraint. There are no grand speeches explaining the stakes. You feel them through repetition and tension. Naval personnel have often noted how accurately the film portrays readiness fatigue. Living at peak alert wears down judgment. The crew's unease grows as they sense their commander slipping deeper into obsession. The ending shocked audiences when it released, and it still does. Sailors respect the Bedford Incident because it refuses comfort. It shows how easily control can vanish when authority goes unchecked. The sea does not forgive impatience. This film understands that lesson fully. Number 6. Tora, 1970. Chooses accuracy over drama, and that choice matters. Tora recreates the events leading up to the attack on Pearl Harbor with almost clinical precision. Sailors respect it because it avoids exaggeration. Both sides are portrayed as professionals operating within systems that slowly fail them. The film was a joint effort between American and Japanese crews, which helped maintain balance. Planning meetings, delays, and miscommunications are given as much weight as the action itself. That approach reflects how real naval disasters unfold, rarely from one mistake, but from many small ones lining up. The pacing is deliberate. Some viewers found it cold, sailors found it honest. The film shows how bureaucracy, timing, and assumption can shape history more than emotion. Naval historians still point to Tora as the most accurate large-scale depictions of fleet operations ever filmed. It earns respect because it refuses to simplify responsibility. The sea, once again, reveals the cost of human error without commentary. Number 5. The Sand Pebbles, 1966. This is a naval film that quietly questions why orders exist at all. The Sand Pebbles follows an American gunboat patrolling a Chinese river during a time of political collapse. But the real story is not about geography. It is about isolation. Steve McQueen plays a machinist who trusts engines more than authority, and that tension drives the film forward. Sailors respect this movie because it captures the emotional distance that grows when service places you far from home, purpose, and clarity. Life aboard the ship is slow, uncomfortable, and filled with unspoken frustration. The crew operates machinery that must be maintained perfectly, even when the mission itself feels unclear. That conflict is deeply familiar to sailors. The sea, or in this case the river, becomes a narrow world with no escape from duty. The production was demanding. Filming took place in harsh conditions with real vessels, and that realism shows. Every task feels heavy. Every interaction carries strain. There is no easy victory waiting at the end. Sailors respect the Sand Pebbles because it treats service as complicated. It does not simplify loyalty. It shows how commitment can exist alongside doubt. By the final moments, the film leaves you with a quiet ache. Sometimes the hardest part of duty is not danger, but believing the mission still matters. Number 4. The Admiral Roaring Currents, 2014. This film proved that numbers alone do not decide outcomes at sea. Based on the historic naval stand led by Admiral Yi Sun-shin, the Admiral Roaring Currents tells the story of strategy defeating overwhelming odds. Sailors respect this film because it focuses on preparation, positioning, and calm leadership rather than spectacle. The sea itself plays a central role. Strong currents shape every decision. The enemy's size becomes irrelevant when geography and timing are used correctly. Naval professionals admire how the film presents tactical thinking as the true force behind success. The portrayal of command is restrained. Admiral Yi is not loud or dramatic. He is deliberate, patient, and aware that his people depend on clarity more than confidence. That approach resonates strongly with sailors who understand how leadership feels under pressure. The production placed heavy emphasis on realism, using practical sets and careful choreography to show fleet movement. The result feels grounded despite the scale. Sailors respect this film because it honors planning. It shows that the sea rewards those who understand it, not those who challenge it blindly. Number 3, Battleship Potemkin, 1925. This film is respected not for accuracy, but for truth of feeling. Battleship Potemkin is a silent film, yet its impact is louder than many modern productions. It depicts a crew pushed beyond tolerance by mistreatment and neglect. Sailors respect it because it captures a universal breaking point. The imagery is direct. Faces tell the story. Movement replaces dialogue. The ship feels like a closed world, where dignity matters as much as survival. Though stylized, the emotions ring true. Naval historians recognize that while the film serves a political purpose, its depiction of collective frustration resonates deeply. Life at sea has always depended on trust between ranks. When that trust collapses, order follows. Sailors respect Battleship Potemkin because it understands pressure. It shows how endurance has limits. Even without words, the message remains clear. Number 2, The Last Detail, 1973. This film never shows the ocean, yet sailors recognize themselves instantly. The Last Detail follows 2 petty officers escorting a young sailor to confinement. The journey becomes a quiet rebellion against routine and indifference. Sailors respect this film because it captures enlisted life with rare honesty. Jack Nicholson's performance feels raw and unfiltered. His character is flawed, frustrated, and deeply human. The conversations feel unscripted. The boredom, the humor, and the resentment all feel real. The Navy refused to support the film, but that only strengthened its reputation among those who served. Sailors recognize the hierarchy, the rules that feel pointless, and the small kindnesses that keep people going. The Last Detail earns respect because it refuses polish. It shows that service is not always about honor in grand terms. Sometimes it is about surviving the system with your humanity intact. Number 1, Crimson Tide, 1995. Crimson Tide earns respect because it shows how quickly command can fracture under pressure. Set almost entirely inside a submarine, the film avoids spectacle and focuses on decision-making. 2 senior officers interpret the same situation in very different ways, and that disagreement becomes dangerous. Sailors recognize this tension because it feels professional, contained, and real. Procedure matters here. Conversations are careful. Timing is critical. Silence carries weight. The submarine feels like a closed world where there is no room for mistakes and no chance to step away. Every order has consequences. The crew is portrayed with discipline and restraint. Loyalty is tested, but not ignored. Sailors respect how the film shows responsibility pulling in opposite directions without turning anyone into a villain. The pacing allows tension to grow naturally. Long pauses speak louder than action. Crimson Tide works because it treats leadership as burden, not authority. It leaves viewers thinking about accountability, which is often the hardest part of service at sea. The three naval movies sailors do not respect. Number 3, Pearl Harbor, 2001. Pearl Harbor chose spectacle over understanding. The scale is large, the emotions are loud, but the weight of history feels light. Sailors felt the event was dressed up instead of examined. The focus drifts toward romance and slow-motion moments, while the reality of confusion, shock, and loss fades into the background. The sea never feels present. For many who served, it felt like decoration layered over something that deserved restraint and reflection. Number 2, Battleship, 2012. Battleship loses sailors almost immediately because it treats naval service like a game instead of a discipline. The film is loud and fast, but the motion has no grounding. Procedures vanish. Orders feel random. Ships move as if weight, distance, and consequence do not exist. For anyone who has served, that breaks immersion in seconds. What hurts the film most is its view of the ocean. Instead of a demanding environment that shapes every choice, it becomes a flat stage built for spectacle. There is no sense of exhaustion, coordination, or shared responsibility. Actions reset as if errors carry no cost, and pressure never lingers. Sailors know service is defined by limits of time, visibility, and endurance. Battleship ignores those realities completely. That is why it never earned respect. When realism disappears, so does any connection to the people who actually live and work at sea. Number 1, U5, 7/1/2000. U5 7/1 is the film sailors point to when talking about trust being broken. On the surface, it looks serious. The sets feel tight. The tension feels real. But the problem is not how it looks. The problem is what it changes. The film rewrites a key moment of naval history and assigns it to the wrong people. For sailors, that matters more than pacing or suspense. A service at sea is built on record, memory, and respect for those who actually stood the watch. When a story replaces real effort with convenient fiction, it erases the people who carried that burden. Many veterans said the film felt uncomfortable to watch, not because of pressure, but because of what was missing: accuracy. Once that trust is gone, nothing else works. U5 7. One may entertain some viewers, but among sailors, credibility matters more than drama, and this film never earned it. The sea never cares how good a story sounds. It only respects truth, routine, and restraint. The film sailors respect understand that silence matters as much as action. The ones they reject forget that service is built on discipline, not noise. Now it's your turn. Which film earned your respect, and which one missed the mark? Share your thoughts, subscribe for more, and let the conversation sail on.